Hello, welcome to Skills Tech Talk. Today we'll talk about the 5 characteristics of great software architects. I'll first start by giving a quick overview of what is the role of a software architect, and then I'll name a few famous software architects, then we'll dive into the 5 characteristics that I think great software architects share. What is a software architect? A software architect is the individual in charge of making architecture decisions, and by this, architecture decisions are non-functional decisions with the broadest and longest lasting impact. And by non-functional decisions, what we mean is anything that's not specific to user features. Now, what is a software architect? If you go to Wikipedia, they'll say that it is a developer expert who makes high-level design choices and tries to enforce a few things. Some of the things they try to do are they enforce technical standards when it comes to software coding standards, tools, and platforms. So the coding standards, they need to know the language so they can enforce the best way to use the language through patterns, for instance. And then tools, whether you should use one tool over the other. Java, what IDE should we use? What database should we use? Those are small decisions. Sometimes you can use many tools, but the software architect is in charge of making these key decisions that will impact the development of the product and the final product that will be pushed to production. Now, in a small startup environment, it's different. So the role of a software architect is a bit different in a small startup environment compared to a large company. In a small startup, we tend to have the most skilled programmer making key decisions. We've seen this in instances such as Mark Zuckerberg working at Facebook initially. He had to make architecture decisions. In large companies, it requires even more interactions. You'd be talking to executives, you'd be talking to business folks, even sales folks. And in very large companies, sometimes the architects don't even write any code. They have the deepest understanding of the direction of the product, key decisions, and they're knowledgeable about components, platforms, and what they do specifically well is try to communicate that to different folks. And sometimes they can be almost like the champion of developers because they can explain some of the technical challenges that developers are facing or the reasons why they had to make a few decisions or the others, the trade-offs that forced them to make certain decisions or just to defend certain technical decisions. Through documentations, presentations, and advocating for certain things. So a role that requires a lot of communication. A few famous software architects. We all know Bill Gates. Bill Gates was the chief software architect at Microsoft, and he helped develop the basic programming language. And Linus Torvalds, who also for a long time approved all the code merged into the Linux operating system. And then the other ones, such as Jack Dorsey, who architected Twitter. Now, some of the characteristics that are key for software architects. The very first one and the most important one is they have a very deep technical understanding. Deep technical understanding of the platform, the tools, the language. They need to understand the software product very well. They need to understand key modules and all the non-functional details, even the functional details. They need to be able to explain a lot of the things that may not make sense to people outside the company, within the company, and also communicate with executives, as we mentioned, and work very closely with the technical product manager or other folks, product directors. So a deep technical understanding gives them the tool that allows them to make good decisions and to explain things to people within the team, within the development team, or outside the team. And the other thing that they do is they use influence and not power. So they lead through influence. They don't use power. They're not dictators, because as a dictator, you're likely to fail. Because by pushing people in a direction who have to end up writing the code, you may not necessarily motivate people. So great leaders, they influence because developers trust you. They trust your insights, your knowledge, your abilities, and you're also able to do what you're asking them to do. You're not asking for something that's nearly impossible and that you will not be able to do yourself. As a result, people trust your decisions, and you have a track record of having made great decisions because those are easier to see when you look back. So they have this ability to influence folks because of their technical skills, their communication skills. And then the other thing they have is Great taste. You need to have great taste. Great taste as a programmer, so they have the ability to choose great tools, great platforms. They write beautiful code. They know beautiful code. They're able to give great feedback. And there is the technical and scientific aspect of this, but there is also a part that's mainly just all about taste. When you look at two outfits, how do you know which one is better? So a great software architect will be able to look at two different set of code, a few different tools, and then come up with some insights in even when they're writing their documentation. How do you develop great taste? It's by being exposed to great taste by people writing great software, by reading beautiful code. That's and by being exposed to it more and more, we tend to get a sense of what is good, and it makes it easy for them to use their taste at times. A way to have deep insights without necessarily knowing why. They can just recognize or give amazing choices or options based on what they've been exposed to. And the other thing they have is superior communication skills. This is key to communicate with people within the company, outside the company, with developers, business folks, and even the least technical executives. The idea here is they make sure that they are understood. They communicate so that people understand them well, not just by saying key technical words and making sure everybody is confused. We talk about somebody after they've spoken, people really understand at all levels. So what they do is they're such great listeners that they can quickly adjust the pace, the words that they use to make very complex ideas seem easy to grasp. And the final and fifth thing is humility. Without humility, it'll be hard to even work on a team. And you're working with smart individuals, but great software architects, what they have is the humility to know what they don't know, and also to let other people shine, and to know when they are wrong. A way for them to absorb information from all the smart people around them. So this is a leadership skill that makes them capable of making great decisions and making sure that everybody feels involved and that the decisions are being made by the team, not just one individual. As a software architect, your role is really to guide people and to make sure that the key and most important critical decisions, the very good ones, are made. What would you add to this list? Please add a comment